Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with today's best trade setups. It's Tuesday, the 6th of February. All right. Now, just looking at the markets as we go into the Asian session here, right in the middle of it, got a bit of a risk-on profile. Okay, NASDAQ, S&P up. You're seeing Euro, Sterling, Aussie, Kiwi up there as well. Now, don't be mistaken. This is just a relief rally in the Asian session because the US dollar is slowly tweaking topside. Okay, and that's because the ISM services PMI data, okay, the actual number came out better than expected, and even the services PMI, right, slightly better than the forecast. That adds fuel to the fire, and we're at a situation here where even the slightest numbers here, second or third tier numbers, can start to impact. And you look at the hourly charts, right, we're seeing the dollar. It's not like shooting away at this stage because we haven't got like the CPI number or anything like that. But everything is weighing on it, right? And you're starting to see these moves follow through. And more significantly, like these are the hourly charts, right? You come over to the daily charts. Why am I getting a little bit sort of excited? Well, you're starting to see big trend line support levels come into play. Dollar CAD sort of drifting sideways, as is dollar yen. Dollar Swiss back to that resistance line, potentially moving higher, and the dollar index there as well. Aussie and Kiwi, they're sort of mid-range at the moment, but they are already sort of floundering. I wouldn't be surprised to see those lower as well. So long term, we're about to sort of snap through some levels. That will give the US dollar a bit more momentum, right? And where's that momentum going to come from? Well, pretty clearly, it's going to come from the next batch of economic numbers. Now, for the Asian session, the RBA interest rate decision and press conference are the main things. Now, the new governess, Michelle Bullock, I don't think she's going to be cutting rates. She actually made a point of raising rates at the end of last year just to put the nail in the coffin of inflation. But at the same time, it sort of showed us a bit of insight into, what she plans to do. And it's sort of lead with an iron fist, very Margaret Thatcherish. And so no change expected. I don't think we're in panic stations just yet, but I do expect in the press conference them to be very concerned and start mentioning all of their forecasts they've been doing over the last 3 to 6 months. The numbers are well below the forecasts, right? And so that you can expect the journos to be hitting them, right? Your forecast for inflation was here. It's down here. Housing, down here. Retail sales, it's down here. What are you going to do, right? They are under the pump and they need to start coming up with a plan here to start unwinding some of these interest rate hikes because you know what? It's going to catch up very quickly. The market or the economy in Australia has stalled massively, a little bit longer, and it will fall over. Now, so that's the RBA. It's going to be a tricky one, right, when you look at this because of a couple of things. And I'll come back to the IV PMI. Now, when you're looking at the Aussie and you think, oh, yeah, this is great, let's get short. Well, you know what? A lot of this is already factored into the market, right? All the weak numbers that we've been seeing, inflation numbers, retail sales, all of those things are factored in. So what you need to do is come back and look for some sort of decent entry levels. And you know what? We don't really have amazing levels to get stuck into. So if I just wind back and find that last point, that low in Q1 of 2020, you can sort of get a level down here around 63.27. Now, what that tells me on the daily charts, this thing has got a lot of room to move, like no sort of barriers. Right on the downside here, you'll probably find the big round numbers like 64, the figure, maybe have some traction. But outside of that, this thing has got room to move. So if the central bank is overly dovish, it'll move. But you know what? It'll move freely. But the problem is, you know what? It's going to be volatile because when there's no trend lines around, I can tell you, even the guys at the banks will go, you know what? This is too loose, right? It just doesn't look good. Okay, so that's what we've got at this situation. Don't forget the stronger US numbers are working their way through all these major currencies. So looking at the next major release for the day, if I just get the pen up, the CAD IV PMI, right? So keep an eye on this. Dollar CAD is moving topside. Once again, weaker CAD numbers make an easier trade to the top side in dollar CAD. And then you come back down here. We're starting to get a bunch of central bankers speaking. They can always come out with something random just to sort of, put their stamp on things. If anything, the unemployment figures out of New Zealand later in the European session are probably worth a bit of a bo peep. But as you know, the There's only a couple of numbers each month out of New Zealand. It's pretty loose, but that's where the next move will come from. So all up, good trading opportunities? Not exactly, right? Not exactly one bit, because the Aussie, as I was just showing you, and if I come over to the Aussie sort of charts here, I've got the hourly and the daily sort of side by side. You can see what's going on. There was a fair bit of price action around this trend line. It's broken down, right? To me, it's still a chance to get in. On the daily charts there, it's looking pretty grim. It's already broken down through that trend line. So selling back towards 65.80, which is a bit of a stretch. I can't see going back there unless we see some really weak US numbers. It's going to keep heading lower. If anything, if you want to get into this trade, there is a way, and it's more structuring up a long-term trade plan, right? Where you're looking at like a, 75-point stop loss, something like that, with a, 250-point take profit, right? It gets you into the trade, and you're looking to get the run down here towards this trend line in the sort of mid or 63, sort of 25-30 level, right? So 150 points, that's doable, but you need the plan to get into the trade. Trading the press conference is going to be loose as a goose, as you'd expect. So maybe the CAD IV PMI is the go. And if you have a look at that, just have a look. See if you've got a good entry level, right? Even on the dailies there, it's not exactly sort of clear. You come over here to the hourly charts, and this is what you're dealing with. It's come a long way, stalled, did some work around the trend line, and now up. We're sort of in limbo, right? You know what? Even really strong CAD IV PMI, you might get a move back down here towards 134, sort of 80. Where is that? That's 20, 40 points away. Is that worth you jumping in with some risk? I don't know. Anyway, all up. They're the two trading opportunities, Aussie and dollar CAD. I don't know if they, if either of them are that great, but that's where the action will be. That's where the market focus will be as we go through today's trading day. All right, guys, good luck. All the best. Cheerio.